guys, welcome to this video. Today we are going to dive into the best vintage watches under €1,000. Today I'm joined by Alex, which is just as I am, a watch enthusiast.
Have you ever been in a situation where you want to have a really nice watch but your bank account is just not having it? Well, this is probably the video for you.
Let's roll into number 5. So Alex, tell me, why is this your personal pick?
Buren! Yes, you've probably never heard of this brand, but it exists. Buren was founded in 1898, so they were out there before Hans Pulder introduced Rolex to the world. And they were, for standards back in the day, highly regarded as an exclusive watchmaker. They produced some pretty out of the ordinary movements, including a micro rotor or the Buren caliber 663. Next to the movement being out of the ordinary, it is also well finished and made for excellent timekeeping. Buren watches are not extremely common, but if you can get your hands on one, you'll be sure to have a great time wearing it and be guaranteed to get your investment back in 1 to 2 years, depending on the price you get it at, of course.
Yeah, of course. That was a pretty interesting pick. Okay, now into the next one. Some of you may be surprised by this pick, but I'm gonna choose Omega for number 4. Omega is one of the most popular mid-range to top-end watch brands, and they also have a wide selection of vintage models which are, to this day, pretty popular. The reason I chose this brand is because I have a lot of experience with these watches, and they are reliable timekeepers. The specific model I want to mention are the Constellation models and the Seamaster models. Omega produced some pretty unique watches that are COSC certified, meaning that they have been set to keep the time in the most accurate possible way with a mechanical movement, as you can also see on most Rolex watches.
God, Omega is a nice brand, right?
It is.
Yeah. And then we get to the number 3 spot, which goes to the Girard-Perregaux, which is the oldest brand on our list, being founded in 1791. Even more crazy is the fact that this brand is one of the oldest registered watchmakers in the world. They were, for vintage standards, a luxurious statement, which is also something that is very obvious in the way they used to advertise and design their watches. When it comes to the standards nowadays, Girard-Perregaux makes high-end watches and is even competing with brands like Piaget, Blancpain, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Ulysse Nardin, and so on, just like they were back in the days. The one thing that always surprised me with these watches is the affordability on the second-hand market. For instance, Chrono 24, where the price starts at a baffling €350 for a nice model, running up to €1,000 when you can get a much more luxurious model.
Right, okay. The number 2 spot for me goes to Zenith, which currently produces some of the most fine watches you can find in the market. Zenith is well known for developing their first claimed automatic chronograph ever produced, which is to most people known as the Zenith El Primero. The amazing part about this brand is they are relatively cheap vintage Zenith watches with chronometer certifications and all that type of stuff. The amazing part about Zenith watches, even though they're pretty reliable with modern era-like designs, the watches on their own are modestly priced, starting at €500 for a nice model. I feel like the number 1 pick is a mutual one. We both agreed on the fact that Longines would be the winner of this list.
Yeah, exactly. So Longines is a well-known brand, but this brand has had a major downgrade after the quartz crisis. The most interesting part is that Longines used to be one of the most well-known watchmakers in the world. Just like how Rolex is currently an international statement, Longines used to be one too. They have innovated and produced so many different types of watches that this video would go on for way too long to explain it all.
I mainly collect vintage Longines watches, and for a good reason. They've made amazing and iconic vintage watches, from world-breaking records to floating hands on the dial, the first high BPM wristwatch that you could produce in large quantities, and so on. Longines is by many watch collectors still respected as one of the better watchmakers out there. Unfortunately, because of their inclusion in the Swatch group, their watches started to be more generic and they are less focused on innovation. Fortunately, they are currently striving to be more reliable, especially around chronographs, with their column wheel movements. The price of Longines watches are nothing to be worried about. They have watches starting at €250 that look and wear great. They even have some chronometer certified movements that are certified in the same standards as the Rolex and Omega COSC watches. So that's kind of why I choose the Longines as the number 1.
Yeah, it's a beautiful list.
It is. So if you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to see more of this type of content. Bye guys.